Welcome to this preview of Kentucky Opera's The Abduction from the Seraglio by Mozart with the Kentucky Opera. The performances are Friday, November 4th, 8 p.m. and Sunday, November 6th, 2 p.m. at the W.L. Lyons Brown Theater. I'm Daniel Gillum here with Ian Derrer, who is the new General Director of Kentucky Opera. Welcome, Ian.
Oh, thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
We decided to delay things just a little bit for you. You were just here when we did the last in-studio preview with Madame Butterfly. We didn't get a chance to talk to you then, but happy to have you here. First off, welcome, and thanks for bringing your cast here for this live broadcast.
We all look forward to this event, and I love looking out into the audience and seeing what are now many familiar faces and a handful of new ones. So thank you all for coming here, and just a special thanks to you, Daniel, and to WOL for making this possible for us over and over and over again. It's something now that audiences depend on, and we're happy to be here, and we love sharing. So we have a couple of notable things here. Not only do we have two artists making their debuts with Kentucky Opera, but role debuts as well. So we're very excited to bring you something new and fresh, as well as we have some wonderful veteran performers, and also a veteran stage director in David Gately, and of course, Joey Mekovich. So we're very excited to be here.
Oh, Ian, thank you so much. Mozart was about 26 years old when Emperor Joseph II commissioned him to write The Abduction from the Seraglio, of course, one of many masterpieces that premiered in July 16th, 1782 in Vienna. Mozart worked with librettist Gottfried Steffani to base his opera on the libretto of the operetta Belmont and Costanza by Christoph Bretzner. But to appeal to the audience, Mozart set the opera in a Turkish harem and included a lot of Turkish-inspired music, which of course he did in other works too, a violin concerto, a piano sonata. Whether writing for the solo voice, vocal ensembles, or the orchestra, Mozart combines musical symmetry and balance with a lot of emotional depth for all the characters. Together with these elements, it creates a very, very entertaining production. We start with the noble Belmonte, who is in search of his fiancée Costanza. Her maid Blonda and his manservant Pedrillo, they have been captured and are now being held captive by the Pasha Selim. In the beginning of the opera, we hear Belmonte several times before the heroines are introduced. And of course, a typical opera, we're smitten with the tenor right from the very beginning. Belmonte encounters Osmin, the Pasha's overseer of slaves, and their ensuing duet captures the contrast between the personalities, the hero and the captor, and the voices, the tenor and the bass. During this duet, we hear the playful banter between the voices in Mozart's typical musical language. Osmin's vocal line is a ballad-like, but once Belmonte enters, the tempo speeds up, and Osmin starts to become annoyed with the stranger's questions, while Belmonte feels the urgency of his mission. Once they start singing together, Osmin's responses are curt, abrupt, and defensive, as he feels threatened by Belmonte and the possibility of losing his prized Blonda. The voices echo each other throughout with repeated phrases. Mozart repeats musical phrases and texts for emphasis and emphasis and for the sake of musical balance. The phrases are driven by this clean, crisp rhythm typical of Mozart. As the phrases and text are repeated, sometimes over 10 times, there is a flexibility in the dynamic and vocal choices for the performer. So let's listen to everything I've just described. Please welcome Joshua Dennis as Belmonte and Gustav Andreasen as Osmin. Joshua, this is your first time with Kentucky Opera, right?
Oh, that's correct.
So tell us where you're coming from, and tell me about a little bit your history with this character, Belmonte.
Well, I'm just recently coming from Santa Fe, New Mexico. My wife and I just moved there, bought a house a week and a half ago.
Congratulations.
So we finally have a home after all these years of traveling and doing this. My history with Belmonte is very short-lived. This is my debut with the role, and it's a little terrifying because I heard a lot about how this may be some of Mozart's hardest music that he ever wrote for singers, and I can attest that it's not the easiest thing I've ever sung, but it fits really nicely, and I think he wrote for my part, very beautifully.
How much Mozart have you sung in your career total as far as opera
A
goes?
few things. I love Così fan tutte. Basically this is my third Mozart role. Così fan tutte, my other, and Tamino with magic flute is my other one.
Well, hopefully Belmonte doesn't scare you off from singing more Mozart in the future, right?
It shouldn't.
Okay.
No.
Do you think Belmonte is as noble as he claims to be?
Well, he says some kind of funny things. The fact that he's so obsessed with love makes me think that he may be a little ignorant to the truths of life, and I think that's funny. I think that comedic element is what I try to play in this role.
A little naivete, maybe.
Yes, yes.
Well, thank you, Joshua, for being here. We'll hear from you in just a moment with Gustav. Welcome back to Kentucky Opera.
Thank you very much.
It's hard to forget your voice. We heard you in Madame Butterfly. Now, I've heard you've performed the role of Osmine several times before. How many times exactly?
I believe this will be my 63rd and 64th performance. I've spent more than 2 years of my life rehearsing this or performing it. Yeah.
Wow. So, I guess, as opposed to Joshua, who's cracking the book open for the first time and learning a lot, I mean, are you just sort of like, I'll wake up and sing, Osmine, no big deal.
Yeah, I know it ridiculously well. Yeah, probably better than any other. Yeah, without question.
Well, that means you've sung this opera over 60 times too. So,
Right,
how does that? Every time you approach a new production, do you have to consciously make a decision to let go of baggage from other operas, or do you bring some of that?
I do my best to listen to whatever the director wants. I'm kind of known for following the director's vision. Sometimes I did a production once where it was very, very serious, and I followed the director's vision, but wow, it got bad reviews. But
We won't name names live on the
no,
radio.
No, not at all.
So now, for a singer, this is a particular role, particular voice. Can you tell me a little bit about this character in the voice in particular?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I started singing this almost about 20 years ago. First time I did it was at Wolf Trap Opera. I'm 48 now, and I was 28 then. I was 30. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was 30. But the challenge with this role is I always thought of it as a low role because he sings, oh, he does that note. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, actually, that was a little low, but but it's actually a very, very high role. And so once I started thinking of it as a very, very high role, like it's as high as Figaro, then I was able to actually sing it without worrying about it.
Yeah. Well, great. Gustav, Joshua, thanks for being here. Let's hear now from Mozart's The Abduction from the Seraglio. And let me also remind you that we are on Facebook Live. Open up your Facebook app, and you'll see video of, hi, Mom. You'll see video of today's live broadcast from 90.5 WUOL. Please welcome Joshua and Gustav singing from The Abduction from the Seraglio by Mozart.
Den Pedrivus brechen, der in seinen Diensten steht, den Schurken, der den Hals soll brechen. Seht selber zu, wenn's anders geht. Seht selber zu, wenn's anders geht. Was für ein alter, grober Bengel, das ist so ein Galgenschwengel. Was für ein alter, grober Bengel, das ist so ein Galgenschwengel. Das ist so ein Galgenschwengel. Ihr irrt, es ist ein braver Mann. So brav, dass man ihn spissen kann. Musst ihn wahrlich nicht kennen, musst ihn wahrlich nicht kennen, musst ihn wahrlich nicht kennen, musst ihn wahrlich nicht kennen. Heut, ließ ich ihn verbannen. Es ist fürwahr ein guter Tropf, auf einem Pfahl gehört sein Kopf. Es ist fürwahr ein guter Tropf, es ist fürwahr ein guter Tropf, es ist fürwahr ein guter Tropf, auf einem Pfahl gehört sein Kopf, auf einem Pfahl gehört sein Kopf. So bleibe doch, was wollt ihr noch? So bleibe doch, was wollt ihr noch? möchte gerne,
sei es ferne, ums Haus umschleichen und Mädchen stillen. Fort ohnesgleichen braucht man hier nicht. Fort, 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 fort ohnesgleichen braucht man hier
ihr
nicht.
seid besessen, schlecht voller Galle, nicht so vermessen, in Sangesicht, nicht so vermessen, in Sangesicht.
Und ich in Eifer,
Scheut euren Geiger,
ich kenn euch
das
schon.
euer Thron.
Und ich in Eifer,
Scheut euren Geiger,
ich kenn euch
das
schon.
euer Thron.
Ich kenn euch schon, ich kenn euch schon.
Das euer Thron, das euer Thron.
Helft euch zum Teufel, ihr kriegt ich's höre, sonst ohne Gnade die Bastonade. Noch habt ihr Zeit, noch habt ihr Zeit.
Es bleibt kein Zweifel, ihr seid von Sinnen, welch kein Betragen auf meine Fragen. Seid doch gescheit, seid doch gescheit.
Helft euch zum Teufel, ihr
Zweifel,
kriegt
seid
ich's
von
höre,
Sinnen.
sonst ohne Gnade
Es
die
Betragen auf meine
Bastonade.
Fragen. Seid doch
Noch habt
gescheit,
ihr
seid
Zeit,
doch
noch
gescheit.
habt ihr
Seid
Zeit.
doch gescheit.
Secret the General, ihr kriegt ich's höre, sonst ohne Gnade die Bastonade. Noch habt ihr Zeit, noch habt ihr Zeit, noch habt ihr Zeit.
Andreasen and Joshua Dennis singing the roles of Osmin and Belmonte, respectively, and singing from The Abduction from the Seraglio by Mozart. Thank you both for singing today. If your German's not what it used to be, that's okay. There are going to be subtitles, surtitles at the opera. You can follow along with the text. You're listening to a live broadcast from 90.5 WUOL. We're also on Facebook Live. I'm Daniel Gillum. And we're listening to preview of Kentucky Opera's next production, Mozart's The Abduction from the Seraglio. So Belmonte is able to track down his manservant Pedrillo, who has been working as a gardener for the Pasha. The two scheme a plan of liberation for the captives. In the meantime, the Pasha is attempting to seduce Constanza, while the overseer of slaves, Osmin, attempts to seduce Blonda. Mozart utilizes the form called a Singspiel, where spoken dialogue is included between the vocal selections, a lot like a musical. He also uses this form, as you might recall, in The Magic Flute. We also see that Mozart portrays the mighty Pasha Salam as a speaking-only character. Although the Pasha holds the character's fate within his hands, he has no voice musically. In the trio between Belmonte, Pedrillo, and Osmin, the three voices move in harmony, either together, in a playful call and response, or in sequence, one following the other. The march lends itself to movement, with a change in meter and key contributing to this mischievous drama, as Pedrillo and Belmonte outwit Osmin and gain access to the palace. Please welcome back Joshua Dennis as Belmonte, Gustav Andreasen as Osmin, and Ryan Connolly as Pedrillo, as they start with some of the spoken dialogue and then move into the music of March, March, March.
And where do you think you're going?
Inside.
Oh, no, you're not.
Oh, yes, we are.
Oh, no, you're not.
This is the Pasha's new architect.
I don't care if he's the Pasha's new eunuch. He's not getting in here.
Yes, he is.
Just who do you think you are?
On your way, infidels, both of you. Marsch, marsch, marsch. Trollt euch fort, sonst soll die Bastonade euch gleich zu Dienst entstehen, euch gleich zu Dienst entstehen.
Ei, das wär ja schade, mit uns so umzugehen, mit uns so umzugehen.
Kommst nur nicht näher,
Weg von der Türe,
nur nicht näher.
weg von der Türe.
Sag ich rein, dann sag ich rein.
Wir gehen hinein,
Rein.
wir gehen hinein.
Rein, dann sag ich rein, dann sag ich rein, dann sag ich rein.
Wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein.
Marsch fort,
Platz fort,
marsch fort,
Platz fort,
marsch fort.
Platz fort, wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein. Wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein. Wir gehen hinein, wir schlagen hinein, wir schlagen hinein, wir schlagen hinein.
Marsch, marsch,
Marsch, Marsch. Wir gehen hinein, das wär ja schade. Ei, das wär ja schade, wär ja schade. Wir gehen hinein. Ei, das wär ja schade, mit uns so umzugehen. Wir gehen hinein. Wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein. Wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein. Marsch fort, Marsch fort, Marsch fort. Platz fort, 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 fort. Platz fort, 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 fort. Ich sage drei, wir gehen hinein. Ich sage drei, wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein. Wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein. Platz fort, wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein. Platz fort, wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein. Platz, 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 Platz fort, wir gehen hinein. Platz, 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 Platz fort, wir gehen hinein. Wir gehen hinein, wir gehen hinein. Platz, Platz.
Here on Classical Louisville, Gustav Andreasen, Joshua Dennis, and Ryan Connolly singing from The Abduction from the Seraglio by Mozart. Ryan, welcome back to Classical Louisville and to Kentucky Opera.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, oh, we have a fan in the audience. You've been here before. We've seen you in Madame Butterfly and other productions. But tell me about this role, Pedrillo. Is this your first time singing Pedrillo?
It is not. Actually, I covered this role when the production that we're doing here at Kentucky Opera was built at the Des Moines Metro Opera out in Iowa.
Oh, okay. So you're familiar with this role from that standpoint, but your first time on stage, I guess.
Yeah.
Singing it, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And what's it like for you? Tell me about your relationship with Pedrillo.
It's a lot of fun, actually. You know, Pedrillo and Blonda are sort of the comedic couple and the foil to Constanza and Belmonte as the romantic couple. And, you know, I tend to like the comedy a lot more, so it's fun to kind of bounce around and be the comic relief, as it were.
Good. Well, thank you, Ryan, for being here. Nice to hear you sing again.
Thank you for having me.
Mozart's music language is very distinct, and while this opera is often popular because of the coloratura passages, there are also the very Mozartian lyric passages. And we welcome Devin Guthrie as Constanza for our next piece, and to explain a little bit about the musical language of the opera. Welcome to Louisville, Devin.
Thank you.
This is your first time with Kentucky Opera, right?
Yes, and also with Constanze.
Wow, so you debuted two things in one production. Is that nerve-wracking a little bit?
No, it's exciting.
No, yeah, good, okay.
What I love
I guess
to
if
do.
it were nerve-wracking, you wouldn't be doing this as a career, would you?
Right.
Is this your first? Yeah, this is your first time doing Constanza.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about Constanza's music and what she does in this opera.
Well, as Josh said earlier, this is widely considered to be some of the most vocally challenging repertoire, and I can definitely attest to that. Whichever soprano Mozart wrote this for, she must have been a heck of a gal, because this has the biggest range. You go up to high Ds, you go down below into the chest range, everything in between. There's so many notes. It's so very many notes. You have every extreme of the voice in Mozart's time period. You have the coloratura that came out of the Baroque era, and you have these long lyric lines that are looking forward towards the next era, and everything in between, and all in a corset.
Yeah, right. Yeah. In one evening, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Devin, tell us where you're from and what you've been up to lately.
Well, I'm originally from Claremont and Seal Beach, California, but I've been based in New York for about 12 years since I moved there to go to college. My most recent opera was this summer at Cincinnati Opera. I created a role, Mary Johnson, in the opera Fellow Travelers by Gregory Spears, which examined the McCarthy era in 1952.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah. So this is a wonderful contrast to that.
Yeah, I bet. Devin Guthrie singing the role of Constanza. So let me set the scene here. Constanza is currently in captivity, but the Pasha is also trying to seduce her. Imagine that. She is heartsick and rather helpless, in her current situation. Please welcome Devin Guthrie singing Constanza from The Abduction from the Seraglio by Mozart live here at 90.5 WUOL. You're listening to a live broadcast here at 90.5 WUOL Classical Louisville, a preview of The Abduction from the Seraglio by Mozart, Kentucky Opera's next production. We're also on Facebook Live as well, if you want to join us there, with video and audio as well. Mozart, this is one of my favorite things about Mozart's operas. It's how he writes for 4, 5, and 6 voices, how each voice, like a tapestry, an intricate tapestry, has its own, each line has its own color, its own voice, but he weaves them together in just the most amazing music. For this next excerpt, we welcome back Joshua Dennis as Belmonte, Devin Guthrie as Constanza, Ryan Connolly as Pedrillo, and Ashley Newman as Blonda. At this point in the opera, the captors have been reunited in joy with Belmonte, but they are still continuing to plan their escape. Please welcome back cast from The Abduction from the Seraglio by Mozart here on 90.5 WUOL.
Constanze, ach mein Leben,
es hat möglich entdecken, dich
frei, ja noch
Also, Blondchen, hast verstanden? Alles ist zur Flut vorhanden. Um Schlag 12 sind wir da. Um Schlag 12 sind wir da.
Aber so, das wird dich zwingen. Der Minuten wird dich zählen, wird der Augenblick schon da, wird der Augenblick schon da.
Endlich scheint die Hoffnung Sonne. Durchstrebe Firmament, durchstrebe Firmament. Voll Entzücken, Freud und Wonne, sehen wir uns leiden, sehen wir uns leiden. Voll Entzücken, Freud und Wonne, sehen wir uns leiden, sehen wir uns leiden, sehen wir uns leiden.
The Kentucky Opera live on 90.5 WUOL with music from The Abduction from the Seraglio by Mozart. Ashley Newman, a part of that ensemble there. Welcome back, Ashley. We saw you in Madame Butterfly as Kate Pinkerton, right? That was the last time?
That is correct, yes.
Now, Blonda in Abduction is quite the character. She is given
could
to
say that.
Osmin, the overseer of the slaves, as a gift by the Pasha. Osmin attempts to seduce her, but you're not having it at all.
Oh, not even a
You
little
are a
bit.
strong character, a strong woman in this
She's
opera.
quite strong. Yeah, she's quite the Spitfire. She doesn't take any business from Osmin. But, you know, she's also sort of eternally optimistic that they will be rescued. And so I think that's welcome for Constanza.
Yeah. Is this your first time singing Blonda?
It is, yes.
Yeah,
It's my
and-
first time singing the role.
All right. And what do you think of it?
You know, it's a lot of fun. I also, like Ryan, love singing the comic characters. I really enjoy that. And in true Mozartian fashion, I sing high E's and I also sing low A's below the staff. So in a way that only, you know, Mozart sort of writes for the voice. It's
As
quite
Devin
fun.
was alluding to, a very athletic
Yes.
role in this opera, right?
It is, you know, but my role isn't quite as athletic. Her first aria shows that, you know, she's got legit chops as far as singing. And then we kind of don't hear that again. I mean, it's since there's two sopranos, one of them kind of has to take those middle harmonies, and
That's you.
Blanchen is the one that sings them.
Right.
So, yeah.
How much Mozart have you sung in your career?
Not a ton. I am a Queen of the Night voice. So, yes.
Wait, should we ask her to sing it? No, I'm not. I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that.
Gosh, I should have warmed up more.
Well, Ashley, thank you for being here. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Ashley Newman from Kentucky Opera. I'm Daniel Gillum, and here with me now is a familiar face. We've lots of familiar faces here today. But you, David Gately, you've been here before. In fact, last time you were here, you were directing a show called Showboat, right?
That's correct.
Welcome back, David.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Have you directed Abduction before?
I've only directed it once before, and it was in a different lifetime. It was like 20 years ago, and so I'm revisiting and relearning and having a great time visiting it again.
Is it like other things in life where you have an experience and then years later you have a similar experience? Are you remembering things from 20 years ago? Is it bringing back memories?
Well, you know, not to give away my secrets, but, you know, when I first conceive something, I make a lot of detailed notes in my score. So when I'm revisiting it 20 years later, I have all of that research and stuff still in my score, and I'm going, Oh, wow, I thought of that, huh? Yeah, wow. And I'm surprising myself sometimes.
You're like, this guy's brilliant.
Yeah, really.
Who is this guy? So the opera is set in a Turkish harem. How are we going to see that on stage at the Brown?
Oh, not so much. Mozart and other composers always set things in what they conceived of as very exotic locales. But I think that Mozart's vision of what Turkey actually was had very little to do with what reality was.
Yeah.
And this production wasn't originally designed for me, but it's a rather conceptual production, and it's incredibly beautiful to look at. It's not terribly evocative of Turkey as we would think of it. And having just visited Turkey last summer, it's nothing like what I saw.
Well, David, it's nice to see you again, and thank you for being here today.
Great to be here. Thanks.
David Gately, who is the director. He's the director for the next production of Kentucky Opera, The Abduction from the Seraglio by Mozart. Okay, so next we pick up with a duet between lovers. We have to get one of these in before the end of the program, right? Belmonte and Constanza. So the escape plan was foiled as they were caught by Osmin. He has taken them into to see the Pasha Salim, and they await their fate with trepidation. The lovers languish in a splendid tenor-soprano duet, as only Mozart can write. Mozart is unrelenting in vocal expectation from these singers as they continue this obstacle course in exquisite form. Please welcome back Joshua Dennis and Devin Guthrie here on 90.5 WUOL.
Hat sich denn alles wider mich verschworen? Ach, Constanze, durch mich bist du verloren. Welch eine Pein! Trost in mein erschüttert Herz. Du linderst mir's den Todesschmerz und ach, ich reiße dich ins Grab. Meinetwegen sollst du sterben, ach, Constanze, kann ich's wagen, noch die Augen aufzuschlagen. Ich bereite dir den Tod, ich bereite dir den Tod.
Helmut, du stirbst meinetwegen, meinetwegen. Ich nur zog dich ans Verderben, ich nur zog dich ans Verderben, und ich soll nicht mit dir sterben. versterben. Ist mir dies Gebot. Ist mir dies Gebot. Der Seele, der zu leben, war mein Wunsch und all mein Streben, war mein Wunsch und all mein Streben. Ohne dich ist mir so pein, auf der Welt zu sein. Auf der Welt zu sein. Länger auf der Welt zu sein.
On Classical Louisville, an excerpt from The Abduction from the Seraglio by Mozart with Joshua Dennis and Devin Guthrie singing Belmonte and Constanza. We conclude with perhaps an unexpected ending for some, but for Mozart, the All's Well That Ends Well operas would become a staple for him. The Pasha Selim returns to determine the fate of the captives after their failed escape plan. He discovers that Belmonte's father had once exiled the Pasha from his homeland. Rather than punish the captives or ask for ransom, the Pasha decides to repay ill with mercy and grants them their freedom. The Pasha sees this as the ultimate payback towards his enemy. Osmin shares his anger, disappointment in the verdict, but the captives rejoice together and praise the Pasha for his mercy. Now we welcome back our cast again to sing from The Abduction from the Seraglio by Mozart live on Classical Louisville.
Ich deiner Huld verkennen, mein Dank bleibt ewig dir geweiht. An jedem Ort, zu jeder Zeit, werd ich dich groß und edel nennen. Wer so viel Huld vergessen kann, den seh man mit Verachtung an. Wer so viel Huld vergessen kann, den sieht man mit Verachtung an.
Wie werd ich im Genuss der Liebe vergessen, was der Dank gebeut? Mein Herz der Liebe nun geweiht, ich doch dem Dank geweiht treibe. Wer so viel Huld vergessen kann, den sieht man mit Verachtung an.
Wer so viel Huld vergessen kann, den sieht man mit Verachtung an.
Wenn ich es je vergessen könnte, wie nah ich am Entrosseln war und all die anderen Gefahr ich lief, als ob der Kopf mir brennte. Wer so viel Huld vergessen kann, den seh man mit Verachtung an.
Wer so viel Huld vergessen kann, den sieht man mit Verachtung an.
Herr, was sei ich, sag recht mit Freuden, viel Dank für Kost und Lagerstroh. Doch bin ich recht von Herzen froh, dass mich lässt von ihnen scheiden. Den sieh nur das Tier dort an, ob man sowas ertragen.
Verbrennen sollte man die Hunde, die uns so schönlich hintergehen. Es ist nicht länger anzusehen, bis dort die Zunge fast im Munde, um mir den Mund zu ordnen an. Es geköpft, dann gehangen, dann gespießt, auf was ich tangen, dann verbrannt, dann gebunden und getaut, zulässig Stunden. Es geköpft, dann gehangen, dann gespießt, auf was ich tangen, dann verbrannt, dann gebunden und getaut, zulässig Stunden.
Nichts ist so hässlich als die Rache. Nichts ist so hässlich als die Rache. Nichts ist so hässlich als die Rache. Hingegen menschlich tätig sein und ohne Eigennutz verzeihen, ist nur der große
Wer dieses nicht erkennen kann, den sieht man mit Verachtung an.
Wer dieses nicht erkennen kann, den sieht man mit Verachtung an. Den sieht man mit Verachtung an.
Devin Guthrie, Joshua Dennis, Gustav Andreasen, Ryan Connolly, and Ashley Newman, all part of the Abduction from the Seraglio by Mozart. You've been hearing some excerpts, some previews of the opera, Kentucky Opera's next production. Also, a very special thanks to our orchestra on the Steinway, Miss Sharon Lavery, as always. Yeah, singers, you think you have a lot of notes, so she's at least 9 more than you do, right? Also, thanks to Andy High and Kojin Toshiro, Paul Nevid for our broadcast today. Tyler Franklin behind the iPhone there as we are on Facebook Live. Thanks to City Cafe for lunches, and thanks to Kentucky Opera, as always, for bringing their cast here for a preview of their next production, which is November 4th and 6th. You can find out more at kyopera.org. I'm Daniel Gillum, here live on 90.5 WUOL Classical Louisville. We'll see you next time.
This has been a live broadcast from Classical 90.5, a Louisville public media station.
You're watching Metro TV, a public service of Louisville Metro government.